Welcome to WYCD Wicked. The kids are all right. How you doing? Oh, mercy me. So, this stream is focused around just one thing today, which is hope for the future and where it came from, why I'm confident in it, and a little bit of praise. Oh, what the hell? Some back pattery for those of us that slogged our way through generations where it wasn't so easy to be on the side of the angels. How are you today? How you doing? I'll tell you, I'm feeling fine after some viewer suggested clips. Oh, we're gonna be watching them. Wicked Foxy Dragon, hello. The Anti-Corporatist, how you doing? Rustbox, hello. Good to see ya. Ooh, a Hassan Piker stream. Interesting. I feel like I need a shower just to watch the yuck off from watching Walsh on my laptop screen. Yeah. I didn't. I have personally not had any taste for Hassan Piker at all after he did a rather horrendous Ukraine take right towards the start of the war. But I credit where it's due. He's among the most popular YouTubers currently. I mean, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, just flat out amongst the most popular. And he generally has good politics. So I'm glad he had a good stream. Good for him. I still don't like it, but good for him. Let me dive in to the nuts and bolts here, because y'all, it's we gotta take hope where we can get it these days. Unfortunately, this is a ever present source. Well, the theme of the stream is the kids are all right, and this is why. They largely, as in the largest it has ever, by the largest margin since we've measured margins in politics, millennials and Gen Z are voting for the left. They're coming out against the insanity of right wingers, and good. You have to understand that the United States, and it's hard for me to understand this. It's hard, like, I can be aware of the fact, but it's hard for me to really internalize it. In the United States, what we call our left and right wing really are something else. We have a pro-democracy party and a pro-fascist party, and it's truly not a new thing. It's just obvious now. But going back, it has always been this. I mean, going back as far as Nixon trying to sabotage both elections that he participated in, rather his last two elections for the presidency, both of which he won. Yeah, he was trying to cheat. He didn't care about playing by the rules. He just wanted the power. Going back before that, in World War II, before we entered it proper, and people got real sore at the Germans for killing their family members, we had a strong pro-fascist arm in the United States. It was the far right. Surprise, surprise, again. However, the times have finally caught up with these clowns. Here's Luke Beasley explaining the right wing guffawing, gasping, clutching their pearls at the idea that finally there's a whole generation of people that has suffered from the right wing that ain't going to put up with them anymore.
Let's talk a little bit about Gen Z, more specifically, the outreach or lack thereof from the Republican Party, hilariously so, to Gen Z. And it's interesting. I'm going to show you Kayleigh McEnany during a recent segment on Fox News tonight, kind of dealing with this information. I've done segments in the past about this very subject where a lot of right wing figures right now are finally aware of the fact or willing to accept that they're just being thoroughly statistically rejected by Gen Z, by younger voters. And so if they want to have any hope in future elections as the younger generations get more active and become one of the more prominent voting blocks, they're going to have to change the reality. And I'm hoping they won't be able to, that they are being rejected.
Good intro. Let me jump in because Fox won't say it. The reason why. Sure, there is the fact that financially this generation has suffered a great deal, and all the cartilage has worn off from between the bones in the U.S. All the fat reserves are gone, and now we're eating into the young muscle. But there's also the fact that it is by far the most out of the closet generation, not the gayest generation, the most out of the closet generation. And so when we have a whole fad of the return of gay bashing, you are communicating to 1/5 of the voters of that generation to some degree. Either they're the L, they're the G, they're the B, they're the T, or the Q, or the I, or the A, or the plus. One of them falls into that 1/5 category. And they are extraordinarily unlikely to vote for the folks that are advocating for their doom.
By Gen Z.
Let's see what
and just generally kind of younger voters. And so some still do the weird, no, actually, I think we're doing fine with Gen Z voters. And plenty just constantly talk down to and about young voters. And so clearly they have no ambition to make a change. Many, as we'll get to after watching this segment of Kayleigh McEnany, just have the approach of let's try to suppress the vote of young voters, which is often a GOP strategy for groups of individuals or populations of voters that don't vote for the Republican Party in high numbers. But some are saying we should reach out. So here's Kayleigh McEnany. I'm going to show you her playing a clip of these TikTok, I think it is, influencers who are political, and then her responding to that and calling to action the GOP on this subject, and lots to discuss on this. Take a look.
Gen Z voters by reaching out to them on platforms such as TikTok and Instagram.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you.
Get 'em.
You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment.
What a dumb framing. Just standing there being goons at the camera. I find it delightful. Because that's very much... That's very much young buck behavior right there. Oh, gosh. And I find it delightful because contrast it. Listen to them. They're nailing it politically. Zap, 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 zap. Right on point. All of it. I'll tell you, that alone, that one clip that they played on Fox gives me hope. These goofy-ass kids standing around, cameras low, they're hunched over it, yelling at it. But they're speaking truth. They're educated. They know what's up. How could we have avoided the Nazis back in the day? Well, hell, maybe if we would have had social media, a couple of Jewish lads would have hunched around a camera and given what for. I love it. Good job, fellas.
take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken.
It's so false. I'm a Republican, and I think Gen Z is smart.
Shut up. Look, she definitely thinks Gen Z is smart. She definitely thinks Gen Z is correct. That's what she doesn't like about it. All right, go on with your nonsense.
They're intelligent, they're creative. But Republicans, my party, we need to fight for the next generation. We need to spread the conservative messages in places that they'll hear them.
Call me crazy, but it seems like
this
is the workforce you'd expect after years of liberal.
Sorry about that. Then this voters. Indeed. So Kayleigh McEnany there is saying, no, that's such a wrong, incorrect message from those influencers that Republicans don't really care about reaching out to younger voters. And like I've said, look down a lot on Gen Z voters. How often do we hear, and that's what further examples were going to be shown there in that video that was put together. How often have we heard, oh, these millennials talking about, a little bit of an older generation compared to Gen Z, but still kind of consider younger generations, and Gen Z voters, they're all lazy these days and softies, and they're indoctrinated, as those guys were saying. And that's not a message that anyone's going to resonate with, especially when actually it's pretty incredible how aware and intelligent the younger generations are about political subjects. And that's why one of the things that gives me a whole lot of hope going into the next couple decades of politics is not that this is a given, but the political expectation that we are going to see a shift in the progressive direction because of the current numbers we're seeing coming out of younger generations when they do get active. And if that translates later on to when the larger swath of kind of my generation gets active into politics, then that's a really hopeful thing for the state of which politicians will have in.
I'm going to cut you off there, Luke, because I need a definite stopping point, but wholeheartedly agreed. Wholeheartedly agreed. Let's talk about it on the other side. The whole video's good, but I just wanted to talk about that middle part there. Link is in the description. This is Luke Beasley's channel. He puts out bangers, man. Truth be told, I ape a little bit of that guy's style. I like his box setup. I like how he does his thing. So I steal. A little bit of honesty here. They're half right about me if they're talking about millennials there as well. I am lazy. Oh, God, yes. Not soft, though. In fact, harder than woodpecker lips. It takes a certain amount of dedication to be as lazy as I am. But, I agree with Luke Beasley. I got no notes for the man. Other than maybe give me a 5-second countdown for where you're going to end a sentence. But it gives me hope because yes, they're, in that video shown on Fox, they're doing the silly presentation style of young cats. All right. But what the words they are saying communicate to me is they understand. They understand the nuts and bolts of this. They are following what is happening. They relate the cause of their problems to the correct sources. We did not used to have that. We really didn't. If you are finding yourself on the left and you look to your neighbors and the folks of your generation and find that they're a disappointment, first of all, you're not wrong to take some responsibility for that in your soul. That's good. It's healthy to do that because somebody's got it, and it may as well be the first person that notices it. But pat yourself on the back, because if you're a Gen Z person right now and you want to figure out what's wrong with the world, you have a lot of peers that know already and can turn to you and tell you accurately, and they can give you sources. And they can tell you how to check sources so you know that they are reliable. There's a whole network of millions and millions of Gen Z folks and millennial folks, and good God, they're listening to people like Noam Chomsky. It's a hell of a thing. But if you found yourself here, you walked a harder path to get here. And you ought to take pride in that. You had to do a hell of a lot more work. And we should make sure that the next generation doesn't have to do that same work. And it looks like we don't. It looks like the kids are all right. We have more examples coming up. But that was a wonderful clip by Luke Beasley. What can you do? Support the kids. Support the kids. Take them to the polls. By God, drive them if they need a ride. If they say they want to go to a political event and they need a chaperone, take them. They're spending their time wisely. Jess Rush, Gen X. Wicked Foxy Dragon, barely, but still Gen X. Rex Trek, I know, I'm just a boomer born in 60. Oh, I'm sorry, I put a mean just in there. I know I'm a boomer born in 60. Yeah. No, I honest to God, have a lot of respect for folks that show up on these streams and say, yeah, I'm Gen X. Yeah, I'm a boomer. Yeah, I'm this or that grew up at a time where it was a hell of a lot harder to find this stuff out. There was literally just less information. I don't even mean the means of transmitting the information was less. I mean, during a lot of your formative years, the beginnings of some of these experiments were starting. In Reagan's era, we couldn't say for sure that trickle-down economics didn't work. We had examples in other countries, smaller countries, that we forced it on through neoliberal policies that we wanted to really use other countries to experiment with. Chile being the starkest example, I would suggest. But we didn't have the reams of evidence. We didn't have the 30 years of experimenting with it in the United States. So it's a hell of a lot harder to get here. A lot of your political ideas had an opportunity to just get set in stone. If you were even following politics at all. I'll tell you, I remember 20 years ago pretty darn clearly. And people did not follow them like they followed them in 2016 even. You should be proud of yourself for getting to where you got. Because it was a wild country we were living in, I'll tell you. Christy Zilkowski, honestly, Mike, it's been a lot lately. Interesting. I'm sorry to hear that. Rex Trek, what's millennial? Born in the 90s? Millennial, and I may not be. I might be young Gen X. I believe, though, they're born in the mid-80s, starting. All I remember is that sometime when I was young, MC Hammer had money. And the anti-corporatist, wasn't that the whole video? More or less. There's about 4 minutes on the end, which was interesting, but veered off into another topic. Wicked Foxy Dragon. Oh my God, Jake, I just spit half my drink out of my mouth. That is like the third time this week you have done that. Well, delighted. I do make people spit from time to time for various reasons. Rex Trek, I'm glad we didn't have it in high school class of 79. Yeah, I was referring to the internet. Yeah, I know what you mean. It kind of sucks that there's like a permanent log of things you did, but I do think enough of us have shown our ass that we, going forward, are just going to sort of agree that we have to just accept that humans are filthy gutter creatures. Wicked Foxy Dragon, bad Jake. Well, look, I used to sell chewing tobacco. Jess Rush, I went back in 2013. The kids were wildly intelligent. I could not slack one bit. I didn't want to look like a dumbass. Oh, good. Good. The anti-corporatist, 95 to 2010, is a millennial. All right, I'm Googling this. What is a millennial? I don't particularly care, but I do want to not have embarrassed myself retroactively, because I think I said I was a millennial a lot. Relating to or denoting, this is just according to the first result on Google, who's to say, relating to or denoting people born between the early 1980s and the late 1990s. That is a long stretch of time. This says 81 to 95. Okay. And then, yeah, Gen X, 1965, 1980, Boomer, 1946 to 1964. Okay. Oh, that's actually Gen Z. Okay. Look, I have a slightly, when I honestly think of generations, like outside of politics, really, I just think everybody alive on Earth at the same time during major events. I think if you were, I know major events are happening all the time, but I think you are simultaneously multiple generations. We are all the Jan 6 generation, and we're in this conversation also all the September 11th generation. Just in terms of context, it's a generation to me is nothing more than a shared chronological experience to one degree or another. Putting it more happily, we're also all the Robin Williams generation. Well, Wicked Foxy Dragon, we're going to do the clip you sent me earlier, because that is the theme of the show. Rex Trek, I'm the oldster here. Now get off my lawn. Oh, delightful. Well done. Well, let me set this up here. Wicked Foxy Dragon sent in a clip that had me rolling. And I would very much like to share it with you, assuming that whatever, hey, there we go, that whatever screen I'm on doesn't freeze up. So I suspect, based on the subscriber count and based on how much I was laughing, that I should have known who this guy is already, but I didn't. Let me do a proper intro, and then we're going to show you an internet funny man who went to a Pride event. Gotta thank Wicked Foxy Dragon for the suggestion. This video had me rolling. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but the theme of the show is the kids are all right. And this gentleman went to a Pride event. It sort of tested them a little bit. He's an internet funny man and political commentator. And he put on his best Trumper gear and went to go bust the kids' chops a little bit and see how they did. And boy, they did not disappoint.
This indoctrination stuff has gone way too far. I had an unsupervised weekend with my son. He's in the third grade. And I brought him to Hooters. The first thing he asks the waitress is, what are your pronouns? And it was embarrassing.
You're saying that we're indoctrinating kids, but you are bringing your son to Hooters. Do you not see the problem? Women are wearing... It's Hooters.
How's that different than bringing your child to Drag Story
or any
Hour?
Of us naked.
But I saw a video on Libs of TikTok where they were like dressed like
that gal in the back with the rainbow heart on her face. You can see the fury wash over her. She's gonna be such a good crotchety old lady. You know, in another 100 years back, she would be the person saying, like, you need Jesus. You need to learn right from wrong. She's He's just out there not taking any sass. It's beautiful. Let's let him go. It's a short video.
Like a strip club.
Right.
And
The
it was-
internet, the internet is different than real life.
The internet is not real life. That is not real life. Internet is fake.
So you're saying libs of TikTok is not real?
No, it's not real. I'm sure some of the stuff that on there are real, and maybe sometimes the stuff happens, but not a lot. It is a lot different than taking your 2-year-old or your second grade son, third grade son to Hooters.
It's been a long time since I've had an unsupervised visit
Why
with
do you
my
have to be
son.
supervised? You're an adult.
No, but you know what? I shouldn't have to be supervised. Thank you. My visits with my own son should be unsupervised. I just had to start, catching up on my child support. I feel like that's cancel culture. It's cancel.
Culture? That's not cancel culture. That's you being a bad dad.
Drag queens know that they aren't overly sexualizing women and creating a really horrible image for them.
You can walk over there and look at the drag queens, and they're not showing anything. They're in full length clothing, and
So, first of all, I think the kids caught on pretty quickly to the fact that he was trying to be a punching bag. But they let him have it. I mean, this was the verbal equivalent of a bunch of straight toughs with some poor sack in the center passing him around by punches. I mean, they were whooping him verbally, and it's just delightful. Delightful to see. Let's just let him bring it home.
they're just performing a show. They're being very respectful.
They're also giving out water and making sure everybody's staying healthy and safe the entire time. They're also not naked.
I'm dealing with indoctrination with my own son. Wow. I had my first unsupervised visit
And the contrast.
with him. I just had my first unsupervised visit with my son. We go out.
How old is he?
So he's in second. He's in third grade. I think he's in the third grade. I take him to. Can we say the name of the restaurant? I took him to Hooters. I take him to Hooters. I take him to Hooters, and the first thing he asks the waitress, "What are your pronouns?"
Oh no. You know what? You need to get him out of school and either get him into private school if you have the money, or teach him yourself.
They're indoctrinating the kids in school.
The first question he asks the waitress is, "What are your pronouns?" It's embarrassing. And he's in the third grade, and I was like, "Who's teaching you that?"
Wait, your kid said that, not the waiter?
No, he asked the waitress.
No,
what
that's
her...
even worse than I thought. I think you said the waitress asked you guys.
No, that's even worse.
Let's just leave it there for a second. I want to talk about the flurry of things we just heard. Okay. First of all, when we say these folks don't have principles, this is what we are discussing. He mentions that he took his kid to Hooters, and they don't go, "Wait a minute, whoa. You took your kid to a borderline nudie bar? What's the matter with you?" Nope. Has nothing to do with protecting kids from sexuality. It's just about hating on gay folks. It's about making sure trans folks stay othered. They don't seem like regular folks to kids. Then we have this guy rattling off that bit about private school. Oh, you know what you should do? You know what the solution is? You got to get your kid in a private school if you got the money for it. Yeah. This guy wants to create a solution where people with money get to have the lives they want for their kids, but people without money don't. Now, the life he wants for his kid is a sad one, but still, you just see where their minds go, and it's super sad. And the thing is, the kids who were at this Pride event, where these punks were also bothering people, the kids see that, and they understand what they're seeing. And these folks are a great advertisement for why you should never, ever trust anything the Republican Party has to say about anything ever again. They're a useless organization. They exist only to enrich themselves. That has become crystal clear. And the people that fall for the grift, this is what they look like. I know it might truly, really, it might feel like these people are like, that guy's going around and he's having to search for just like the corniest, silliest people there. I've been to these things. I've worked with news teams full of people who must go to these things. I've been on the team that has to record interviews with these folks. Truly, I have pretty much met nobody except folks like this at them. And I'm sure in the rest of their lives, when they're talking about things that aren't related to politics, I am sure they don't act like this. I'm sure they can be taken a hell of a lot more seriously. But this is like coming across someone when they're stone drunk. They're on something that negates their opinion at the moment, I suppose.
Oh my goodness, where did he learn that?
I think that the military is going to step in because I think the only way is the military.
The world's military is laughing at our military when they're...
Real quick, that guy saying the military is going to step in, that's fascist authoritarian right there, just so you know.
Trying to figure out what pronoun they're on. They're figuring out how to take us out.
We're talking about indoctrination.
Right. Okay.
They are making fun of me.
Real quick, what did that little contrast right there? It's important to note. In fact, let's go back and look at it. Listen to what this guy says.
Oh, no, that's even worse. Yeah. Oh, my
Wait a minute.
Where did he learn that?
I think
All right, listen to what this guy says.
that the military is going to step in.
He thinks that the military is going to start kicking in doors and forcing people to live the way that he wants to live. Forcing people to live the way he wants to live, not the way they want to live. But they all have to do an impression of that guy because he's uncomfortable with the idea that somebody a couple houses down doesn't live exactly the way he does. And so because of that, he thinks, his hopeful message is that, don't worry, the military is going to force people to do that at gunpoint. Then what's this other guy say?
Because I think the only way is the military.
The world...
He says the only way is the military. So he thinks that it is necessary that the military does that horrible thing. All right, what does this guy say next? Listen to it at the very end.
The military is laughing at our military when they're trying to figure out what pronoun they're on. They're figuring out how to take us out.
We're talking about indoctrination.
He thinks that we, and those like us, are secretly having the military figure out how to take them out. In other words, it's a guilty conscience. He's hanging around folks like you saw just there, who are talking about how they think the military is the only way. So he hears what his fellows think, and he does the standard Republican thing these days. He turns around and says, well, the other side must be that bad too. I think one important talking point we need to start addressing is that we are not as bad as MAGA is. And I don't mean we're bad. I mean, we need MAGA voters to understand that they're hanging out with a bunch of immoral sons of bees. We are the moral ones. Let's just be frank about that. And they are the dancing, stinking wretches. And they're not honest just because we spot it often. It's not as though we just do a better job of hiding it. The reality is, this is why the left skewers itself constantly. It is to avoid becoming that. But let's end it on a high note. Here's the kids knocking out of the park again.
Nation. They are making fun of me because, you know, I was telling them a very personal story about how I brought my brought my son to Hooters. It was my first unsupervised visit that I've had in months. And I got really embarrassed because he asked the waitress what her pronouns are. And it was like, you know what, read the room.
I think about that story, there's a lot more things you should be embarrassed about, personally.
She nails him at the end. I think of that story, there's a lot more things you should be embarrassed about. So look, our job is pretty clear. We got to keep the USA alive and being a democracy until that group can fully join us in the fight. We were talking about when are they born? When are they born? Gen Z, 1996 to 2010. That means the youngest of Gen Z. They're 13 years old right now. 5 more years. We got to get through one more election cycle, one more presidential election cycle, and one more cycle with the House and Senate before they are fully in the game. I feel like we can do that. I think that's a reasonable ask. So let's do it. Let's welcome them into the new America in 2024 with the gift of a blue House, a blue Senate, and a blue White House. I bet, especially with their help, I bet we can do it. Thank you for the suggestion, Foxy. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. Radical centrist. I am sometimes picking up on their anxiety about school shootings. Jesus, yes. Having to do drills in school. We were talking about drills like in the 80s for nuclear destruction. It's scary, sure, but it never actually happened. There's a whole nother edge to doing drills for something that definitely does happen and might happen in your school tomorrow. Jesus Christ. None of it was good. None of it was good. Obsessive audio. Anti-corporate is calling the wife. Good for you, brother. Obsessive audio. Flipping the script seems to work most of the time. Yeah, I agree. Wicked Foxy Dragon responding to Radical Centrist's comment. Parents are worried about kitty litter boxes in bathrooms and using pronouns while the kids are worried about being shot to death while reading a chapter. Yeah, and a particularly sad thing about that is if you snopes your way through that kitty litter story, you know the actual reason there was kitty litter in the classroom? It was in case the school had to go into an extended lockdown. You know, because there was a shooter inside the school if there was like a hostage situation and they had to barricade themselves for hours. So the kids could go to the bathroom during school shootings. But Fox News got people riled up about trans folks and what have you. Wireless Mike, Christopher Titus does a great bit about Gen Z. Well, I will absolutely listen to it. I love Titus, even though I'm sure I wouldn't love his politics. I love the guy that played Christopher Titus's father in the show Titus, who, fun fact, his name is Stacy Keach. He also played Mike Hammer in a series of books based off, in a series of TV movies based off some Pulp Fiction novels, which are just the best. Look it up. Stacy Keach, Mike Hammer. You'll have a lovely weekend. We got one more for you. that I very much would like to play. Assuming I get the player working. Hey, yep, there we go. So, the Majority Report has they've been off, but they've had a series of really interesting guests. I would like to share with you part of an interview, part of a clip of an interview, because there is a reason that all these kids understand politics the way they do. They see what happens to folks. Yeah, it's that they're the most out generation. But also they see how the other side is living. And they ain't happy. Let's have a quick look. Well, one of the many, many reasons that that Gen Z and millennials are more immune to Republican rhetoric is that for them, a lot of the time, they can look around and see the kind of person you become when you subscribe to that stuff. I'll tell you, there's a lot of things that are hard about being a lefty. But man, you don't have much problem getting along with people when you're a lefty, truly. And that works well in the dating scene. However, when you gotta just force people to be exactly the way you think they ought to be, and you can't just accept people for who they are, well, that makes dating hard. Here's the Majority Report. Oh, it makes dating difficult, let's say. Here's the Majority Report discussing the incel phenomenon. I'm very proud of myself for not stumbling over that word just then.
So, is part of that too just if feminist theory or sex positivity, I should say, and that concept, if it excludes itself from politics to that degree, or you're just, all sex is, if it's consensual, it's fine, right? And you make a kind of broad strokes argument about that. One, I think it obviously needs to be updated to include trans people, include non-binary people, etc. But two, you're kind of ceding the sexual political space to the right, and they, when you cede territory to them, they seize everything that they can, right?
That's a really interesting point she's making. I do have to say, I have always been, frankly, operating under the belief that, yeah, the one rule, basically, is sex has to be between consenting adults. That's it. Doesn't even have to be between two consenting adults. It could be 20 if that's whatever. If that's the thing that makes the I don't know what the word for 20 is. Ollie is happy, then good, fine. But it sounds like Emma Vigeland is coming down a little differently here. I'm curious to hear this response. Just want to say, get out there up front and say I was wrong if I was.
And you exit the political space to a degree, they fill that vacuum very easily. They're a minoritarian ideology, honestly, as particularly in the United States, and that's kind of inherent to how they seize power right now. So is that part of the fear as well?
That's such an interesting analysis. And to me, it makes really good sense of the incel phenomenon. And which I do talk about.
I want to get into that too.
Yeah.
Right.
So, because I think what you're saying is right. So you have on one hand, a kind of mainstream left understanding of sex where as long as it's consensual, it's fine. So basically it's a market ideology, right? So long as Amazon worker has contracted to be screwed over in the warehouse, then what Jeff Bezos is doing is permissible. And so you have a similar kind of market logic within sex. As long as it's consensual, it's fine. Intuitively, a lot of people chafe at this, right? Because you you look at what actually happens in sex and you think, but there are weird hierarchies here. For example, there are racial hierarchies that say that people of certain races are more sexually desirable or have higher sexual status than other people. And I think one thing, and what happens is that there's a right-wing narrative that very easily steps into that gap. You see it from someone like Jordan Peterson,
Mm-hmm.
who offers you offers a young, dissatisfied sort of man, typically a diagnosis, right? And it's always a return to a mythical, traditional time when everyone was sexually satisfied because we had marriage, and that meant that no man had to go without sexually. Of course, whether this served women or not is kind of beside the point.
Isn't it always? Look, I don't care what era you lived in. If you're Ryan Gosling, you're doing fine. If you've got 8-pack abs, you look like, I don't know, who played Lawrence of Arabia? I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, how about Rock Hudson? You're doing fine. It really doesn't have, really not terribly complicated, and it never has been. If you're suave, if you're comfortable in your own skin, no matter what shape or shade it is, if you're a smooth talker, fun to be around, smell good, generally provide a pleasant experience, well, gosh, you're going to do better in the dating game. I don't, off the top here, I don't see it. And I'm not saying that I think she's wrong. I just want to warn you. I think she's right, but I don't see it. I don't see... To me, it sounds like all Jordan Peterson is doing is finding excuses for people that probably deep down know the truth. They know the issue is they gotta take a shower and give a damn about what the other person has to say, and not just be desperately trying to sleep with them and only interested in that, because they don't have the circumstances, whatever they may be, to pull it off. But the thing is, it sounds like Jordan Peterson is just saying, well, the circumstances, they're beyond your control. They're somebody else's problem. It's actually circumstances that, surprisingly, you wouldn't think have very much to do with yada, yada, yada. In which case, if that is what she's saying, I don't see how the left got anything wrong here. But maybe I'm wrong. And in fact, maybe I've just misunderstood what they're saying.
But I think you're right that it's a sort of failure of the left, because actually feminists are well positioned.
Okay, I didn't misunderstand what they're saying. Let's hear it.
And in a sense, to speak to incels, at least before they've gone totally radicalized. Because feminists can say to incels, you're right that a lot of the ways that the sexual marketplace works, the fact that it is a marketplace and it's seen as a place of trading status, that's messed up. That's not a really sexually free realm. But the ideology you're being pulled towards by someone like Peterson is the equivalent of, a member of the so-called traditional white working class, blaming immigrants or people of color for their objectively immiserated situation, rather than identifying the true culprit, which is, the capitalist oppressor, to put it, bluntly.
That's an incredible argument. I mean, the extrapolation of neoliberal ideology onto sexuality, I've never ever thought of it that way. But they're mirroring alienation.
Mm-hmm.
That's mirroring that kind of alienation that's driving people towards, as you say.
I'm going to jump in because I think Emma understands it so well that she might think that folks like me don't exist, but we do. I think when she said, the guest said, the capitalist oppressor, she's talking about the chain of symptoms that result from the current working conditions we're in. If you're somebody who is living on your friend's couch and you smell like a foot because you're depressed and you don't shower and you don't have the time to exercise or the budget to eat right, you don't have a whole lot of cash to go out on the town and develop hobbies that that give you something to talk about on a date. That all comes from the same place. By and hopefully I didn't just drop out there. You can't afford to go to a therapist and talk it out and figure out why you're doing that. And you are aware, if you live in this system, particularly a capitalist system which constantly dangles, and when I say a capitalist system, I suppose I mean an unregulated capitalist system. That is ultimately the problem. It's unregulated capitalism. It dangles this stuff in front of you. It says, go get therapy. Therapy's good for you. It costs $65 an hour. You'll need 3 hours a week. Oh, it's not in your budget? Too bad. Too bad. Oh, it costs $165 an hour. Oh, that's not in your budget? Too bad. Shame. Here it is. It's going to solve your problems. Oh, just take the gal out. Treat her. Oh, just talk about your hobbies, which all cost money. And it's true. There's exceptions. You might be able to find a way to eat healthy and cheap. You might find hobbies that don't cost you nothing. You can just get into them all on your own with no equipment. You don't even have to travel anywhere. You might be able to find exceptions, but we live in a collection of these problems, and all of this draws on our energy. Literally, the calories burned, the brain power spent figuring out how to do this or that. And I think a lot of folks, particularly a lot of folks who are having the added pressure of walking through life alone, they don't have a lot of energy to spare. And I think that turns to despair pretty quickly. So when she says it is a capitalist problem, I think that is what she is referring to. Let's listen to the wrap up.
Demonizing ethnic groups on the political stage, but in terms of the incel community, demonizing women and looking for outside sources and groups for feelings of loss or listlessness or inability to connect in a society that makes it very hostile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in both cases, what you also have is, on one hand, a kind of justified grievance at real phenomena, and then an unjustified grievance at the perception of a thwarted entitlement, right? So there's, on one hand, I mean, members of the so-called traditional white working class have very strong reason to be angry in the US about just the state of economic inequality, right? But they incorrectly think that what is happening is that racial minorities are doing better than they are, which objectively is just false, right? And there's something similar going on, I think, in the case of incels. They have a kind of justified grievance about this sexuality and sex treated as this kind of status conferring commodity, but what they're really upset about is the fact that they're not getting what they think that they're entitled to, rather than offering a fundamental critique of the entire system.
100%.
Super interesting. I do have a lot of sympathy for everything that leads up to the point of joining a board of proud incels where they're saying, yeah, we're going to agree collectively that it's all somebody else's problem. But once you join that board, I think the sympathy evaporates. Because I honestly believe that deep down, these people know. They know. They know that if they could make themselves a more appealing person, they would be able to get the kind of folks that they're looking for to sleep with them. Because if they're looking for someone to sleep with them, they're not looking for a wife or a husband or whatever the hell. They're not looking for a partner. They're not looking for an equal. They're looking for a fun night, a little validation. I can understand that, but you got to understand as well that you're not searching then for your equivalent on the other side. You might think my equivalent on the other side doesn't exist. Okay, well, I find that hard to believe, but maybe. But the problem isn't that they lack these qualities. The problem is why they lack these qualities. And rather than acknowledge why they lack these qualities, they see it as an easier fight to turn the whole world into a system which no longer pays attention to their faults, their shortcomings, whatever they are, be they a little pudgy, be they whatever it is that makes an incel an incel. It's like in the bar when a big guy knocks over somebody else's drink and that person doesn't really read the situation first and they stand up angry, like they got their fists balled and they see who knocked over their drink and they decide, I'm going to pretend like I thought it was this person and I'm going to shove this skinny little guy. That's all it is. It's that on a large scale taking place on message boards. I don't see the critique of the left, if I'm honest. I'm all about critiquing the left. I just don't see it here. The idea that you can boil down what is moral sex down to it's consenting adults. That's it. I think that's the way to go. Because it's simple. It's a real easy to understand rule. And it works. It works just fine. If the two of you like just going into your bedroom and making peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and somehow that achieves whatever it is you set out to achieve, fine. It's fine. And I think that the right will probably continue to try to scapegoat anybody but the old capitalist overlords going forward. That said, still an interesting interview. They've had him all week in the absence of the live show. I do recommend checking it out. And what the hell? There we go. And that is how we do the outro. Let's see what y'all have to say. The anti-corporatist. Oh no, that reminds me of the time when we were talking in the kitchen of the restaurant that I used to run about porn movie pun titles. Like, Lawrence of Arabia. That's a classic pun title right there. Came up, and this guy named Lawrence. It kind of stuck. And then we had this one kid who wasn't all there, who only kind of caught on to it and said to Lawrence's girlfriend, "Hi, Mrs. of Arabia." Oh no! Oh no! Oh God. The anti-corporatists. Oh no, Sam Cedar. What a effing nightmare. Yes, Dino. Social media created these men. They've never learned normal social skills. Yeah, I think social media, and also to some degree, the fact that you used to be able to go get a job as a bartender and eventually buy a house, that makes a huge difference. You need only a few small pieces of comfort to build a life off of. You just need to be able to understand that as long as you do your 40 hours a week, you're going to have a car, you're going to have some spending money, you're going to have a house. If you have kids, if you roll the dice on one of those nights out that you're envying so much and you wind up with a kid, it'll be all right. You know, maybe not perfect, but it'll be fine. And we don't have that anymore. It just doesn't exist. You need to prove that you are better than the common man to be bestowed the honor of safety and security in the United States of America. And if you don't feel that you are better than the common man, if you don't feel you are anything but a common person, it weighs on you. It surely does. And it compounds. People get depressed. They don't shower. They don't brush their teeth. They don't have the patience to do the things that are necessary to better themselves. They don't have the time. There's no point in going to the gym if you can't afford protein to keep the muscles. You just wind up sore and skinny. It's that bad. It really is. And if you're out there working and thinking, well, I'm able to make it, I'm proud of you. I am proud of you. But you probably should be doing better than you are. You're probably underappreciated as well. You just aren't a greedy person, so you haven't really noticed it as much. But everybody notices it when they get sweet on a girl, they suspect she's sweet on him, can't afford to take her to the movies. Heartbreaking, man. Wicked Foxy Dragon, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up. Yes, please. But we're batting 1,000 on that. Anti-corporatist, yeah, I'm a bit behind, but that's part of it. Everything costs so much anymore. Even camping takes mega bucks just to drive to a campground. Yeah, it's disgusting, man. Anti-corporatist, I keep saying it, VR AI waifus are going to wreck the paradigm and probably doom the species. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, Wireless Mike, we'll see ya. We'll see ya. Folks, I got to get up at 3 a.m. No thank you. Have a good night, man, and good luck. Toe and Jack, Nighty Night Mike, yes indeed. Well, I'll tell you what. I want to read Obsessive Audio's comment. It was a little bit further up. I scrolled past it. Oh, I missed it. More rewarding work and a better quality of life would make extremism much less attractive. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the comment of the night. Well done, Obsessive Audio. Yes, indeed. I think that is exactly it. Well, I'm going to wrap it in just 10 minutes. We have a video that premiered yesterday going up on the channel. I hope you'll check that out. And regardless, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope if you like the stream, I hope I earned that like. I even got my fingers crossed that I earned a subscription from 1 or 2 new faces. Let's see, hopefully. This has been WYCD Wicked. We're on every night except for Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time. Oh, my name's Jake.